July 5th, 2014. Malé International Airport, the Maldives. A Russian man sits in the departure lounge, laptop open, sunburned, relaxed. He has just spent a week on one of the most beautiful islands on the planet. Private beaches, five-star hotels, crystal water. He is not worried. He has been doing this for years, moving between countries, staying in places where American law enforcement cannot touch him. He has always been right about that. Until today. As he stands to board his flight, four men approach. Not Maldivian police, United States Secret Service agents who have been quietly coordinating with the Maldivian government for weeks. His laptop, still open, contains 1.7 million stolen credit card numbers. Active, ready to sell. He is Roman Seleznev, known online as Track 2. And in the world of stolen financial data, that name means everything. At the time of his arrest, investigators believed he was personally responsible for over $169 million in fraudulent charges. Not by robbing banks, not by holding anyone at gunpoint, by selling your credit card details, and mine, and millions of others for as little as 50 cents each. On a website, like a shop. This is the story of the man who built the dark web's most sophisticated stolen card market, and the operation that finally brought him down. To understand Roman Seleznev, you first need to understand who his father is, Valery Seleznev, a sitting member of the Russian State Duma, Russia's parliament, a man with direct connections to the Kremlin. A man who, when his son was eventually sentenced, would call the arrest an act of, quote, state terrorism by the United States. Roman grew up in that world. Privilege, connections, the quiet understanding that in Russia, if you knew the right people, consequences were negotiable. He discovered computers young. And unlike most young men who discover computers, he was not interested in games or social media. He was interested in what computers could take. By his mid-20s, Roman had built something that the cybersecurity world had never quite seen before. Not just a hacking operation, a business, with products, with customers, with reviews, with a reputation. His online handle was Track 2, a reference to the magnetic stripe data on the back of a credit card. Track 2 data is the information that makes a card work. The account number, the expiration date, the service code, everything a criminal needs to clone a physical card or make fraudulent online purchases. Roman did not just steal Track 2 data, he industrialized it. The method began at the point of sale. Restaurants, retail stores, hotels, anywhere that processed credit card payments through a physical terminal. Roman and his network targeted the software running those terminals. Point-of-sale malware, code that sits silently inside a payment system and copies every card number that passes through it. Every swipe, every tap, every transaction. Copied, silently, sent to servers he controlled. The scale was staggering. Investigators would eventually trace his operations to breaches across hundreds of businesses in the United States alone. Restaurants in Seattle, retailers in Miami, hotels across multiple states, each one infected. Each one quietly feeding stolen card data to Roman servers. The businesses had no idea. The customers had no idea. The cards kept working. The receipts kept printing. Life continued normally, while Roman's database grew. And then came the part that made Track 2 different from every other card thief operating at the time. He did not just use the cards himself, he sold them. On a website, hosted on servers in Russia and Ukraine, called track2.name. The site was not hidden, not hard to find if you knew where to look. It had a search function. You could filter stolen cards by bank, by country, by card type, by credit limit. It had a shopping cart. It had customer reviews. It had a guarantee. If a card you purchased did not work, you could get a replacement. It was, in every meaningful sense, a functional e-commerce business, selling stolen financial identities for between $2 and $50 per card, depending on the credit limit attached. At its peak, Roman's site had thousands of active customers, criminals across the world, Eastern Europe, Southeast Asia, West Africa, and the United States itself, purchasing cards in bulk, using them to buy electronics, gift cards, luxury goods, reselling those goods for cash, leaving the real cardholders to discover strange charges on their statements weeks later, by which point the money was long gone. The numbers that federal prosecutors eventually presented in court were almost impossible to process. $169 million. That is the estimated total fraudulent charges tied to cards stolen and sold through Roman's operation. But that number does not capture what actually happened to the people behind those card numbers. A small restaurant owner in Seattle discovers his payment system has been compromised. Months of customer card data stolen. He spends weeks notifying customers, pays for forensic investigators, upgrades his entire system, nearly goes out of business. He is one of hundreds. A retired teacher in Ohio checks her bank statement and finds $1,200 in charges she did not make. This is what 50 cents actually costs. Not 50 cents to the victim, 50 cents to the criminal. Everything else, the time, the stress, the financial disruption, the small businesses damaged, the banks absorbing losses, that is the true price, paid by people who never knew their card had been stolen, who never knew their details were sitting in a searchable database, available to anyone willing to pay $2. The investigation that eventually brought Roman down was not a single dramatic operation. It was years of patient, methodical work across multiple agencies. The United States Secret Service, which handles financial crimes alongside its protective duties, had been tracking Track 2 for years, building a picture, mapping the infrastructure, tracing the money. The challenge was jurisdiction. Roman operated from Russia. Russia does not extradite its citizens to the United States. This is not an accident. It is a deliberate policy, and Roman knew it. He had structured his entire life around it. He lived in Russia. He traveled to countries with no extradition treaties with the United States. He believed, correctly for years, that as long as he stayed in the right places, he was untouchable. What he did not account for was the Maldives. And Roman, on vacation, relaxed, certain of his safety, was about to find that out. Secret Service agents had been tracking his movements. They knew he was in the Maldives. They knew his travel plans. They coordinated quietly with Maldivian authorities. And on July 5, 2014, as Roman Seleznev prepared to board a flight, they were waiting. The arrest happened quickly. Roman did not resist. He was escorted from the departure lounge. His laptop, the one he had been using, was seized immediately. What investigators found on that laptop would form the core of the prosecution against him. 1.7 million stolen credit card numbers, active accounts, ready to be listed on his site. Organized, categorized, priced. A fully stocked inventory waiting to go on sale. Roman was transported to Guam, United States territory, and then to Seattle, Washington, where the federal case against him would be heard. The Russian government reacted immediately and furiously. His father, Duma member Valery Seleznev, called the arrest a kidnapping. The Russian Foreign Ministry summoned the American ambassador. Official statements called it a violation of international law, a provocation, state terrorism. The United States Department of Justice called it justice and proceeded to build one of the most detailed cybercrime prosecutions in American history. On April 21, 2017, Roman Seleznev was sentenced. 27 years in federal prison, the longest sentence ever handed down for hacking-related charges in American history at that time. $169 million, millions of victims, hundreds of compromised businesses, 27 years. The math, finally, had caught up. Roman Seleznev is currently serving his sentence in a United States federal prison. His appeals have been denied. His father's political connections, which protected him for years, could not reach inside an American courtroom. But here is what the sentence did not stop. The market he built, Track2.name, continued operating after his arrest. Other vendors filled the gap. The stolen card economy did not collapse when Roman went to prison. It evolved. Because the fundamental problem Roman exploited was never really about Roman. It was about point-of-sale systems that were not secure, about small businesses that could not afford enterprise-level cybersecurity, about a payment infrastructure built on magnetic stripe technology that was decades old, about the fact that your credit card number, 16 digits, is the same every single time you use it, which means stealing it once is enough. Since Roman's arrest, the payment industry has accelerated the shift to chip and pin technology, to tokenization, where a different number is generated for every single transaction, to systems where stealing the card number is worthless because the number changes every time. These changes have made the specific attack Roman used significantly harder, but not impossible. There are, right now, as you watch this, active dark web markets selling stolen financial data. Cards stolen from breaches that happened last week. Listed, priced, reviewed. 50 cents. That is what your financial identity was worth to someone who had never met you, had never thought about you, would never think about you again.